Look closely at this carved relief from Egypt's most magnificent temple. The face has been systematically chiseled away. The names inside the royal cartouches are scraped clean. This is the evidence of a calculated inside job, carried out with state-sanctioned precision. This complex belonged to Hatshepsut. Beyond her status as a female pharaoh, she was a strategic iconoclast who presided over an era of massive economic expansion, building monuments that dominated the landscape. She recognized that absolute power did not actually flow from royal bloodlines. It flowed from whoever controlled the narrative. Yet, despite producing decades of stability and immense wealth, the state machinery turned against her. 20 years after her death, her name was systematically purged from the historical record. Her erasure followed a bold attempt to override the cosmic order of Ma'at. She tried to replace biological reality with a theological fiction that the Egyptian elite could not ultimately accept. While she mastered the art of soft power, her rise to authority was compromised by a single, calculable strategic error that doomed her entire legacy. In 1473 BC, Hatshepsut occupied a position of absolute stability. As the Great Mother and regent for her stepson, Thutmose III, she held the keys to the empire with the full backing of the law. She could have remained the Grey Cardinal, safely managing the empire's wealth and military from the shadows through a controllable puppet king. Instead, she made her pivot. She announced that the supreme god Amun-Ra had physically sired her, allowing her to bypass the boy king and seize the throne for herself. To sell this narrative of divine kingship, she adopted the full suite of male royal iconography, including the artificial ceremonial beard strapped to her chin. By taking the throne, she was forced to physically remove the legitimate biological heir from the center of power. She sent young Thutmose III to the military barracks. This exile created a dangerous vacuum. While she managed the political fiction in the palace, the legitimate king was growing up surrounded by the officers of the Egyptian army. A Machiavellian pragmatist would have secured this empire without ever relying on a disguise. Masquerading as a man was a tactical admission that a female identity was insufficient for absolute command. A more durable strategy would have involved a sun and shadow co-rulership, splitting the state into two distinct functional pillars. Thutmose III would act as the military fist in the north, while Hatshepsut retained total control of the treasury and the priesthood in Thebes. This carving proves her capacity for maritime logistics and economic management. Her expedition to Punt brought massive revenue. However, she funneled this wealth exclusively into the temples, buying the loyalty of high priests to prop up her theological claims. She ignored a brutal rule of power. Ideology is birthed in the temple, but state survival is secured by the loyalty of the army. She also failed to immediately marry her daughter, Neferu, to the exiled Thutmose III. That marriage would have fused their rival bloodlines into a single, unbreakable knot. Instead, she isolated the biological threat, leaving her legacy vulnerable to the man she created. The moment Hatshepsut died, Thutmose III took absolute command and dispatched his stonemasons to systematically erase her name from every monument. Thutmose III initiated this erasure as a cold strategic maneuver to restore the traditional political order. When Thutmose dismantled her commercial model to build a military empire, a specific technological trajectory was lost. Hatshepsut's Egypt was built on maritime logistics and deep-water trade routes. If this continued, her fleet could have established Indian coast trade hubs a millennium before Europeans. This required female leadership, architectural minimalism, and meritocracy, advancements buried with her name. Hatshepsut was a master of soft power, but she failed because she forgot that history is dictated by the survivors who hold the swords. Political survival dictates that whenever a leader attempts to change the governing rules of a society, they must leave no alternative standing. Hatshepsut allowed her only alternative, Thutmose III, to grow up safely in the shadows of her own monuments. True power isn't successfully disguising yourself as a god. It comes from engineering a system that instantly collapses the moment you leave the room.